How many viewers we got?
I think it's
Seven.
Nice.
All of us.
There's at least one extra. Oh no, because we got Morgan.
I don't know if she has it up though. All right.
I do not.
Ah, that's okay. All
Exclamation
right,
point.
baby.
It is coming through.
It's done. Where's that at? I have so many things. I'm so frazzled right now, guys. That's okay. It'll all be fine. As soon as I find the timer, boom, done. Next slide. Here we go. Oh, the Games Club. Guys, it's been a little while, but not nearly as long as it was for our last one. If you guys are just joining us, if you've never seen the Games Club set up before, what we usually do is we'll pick one game. Thank you very much, Lilac. Appreciate you following us. We pick one game, and we all play through it. We give our thoughts on it, we review it, and we kind of rank it with a score. This month, instead, we decided to switch it up a little bit, and we've all selected our own games. So I am joined by several of the old timers in the Games Club. Fiasco's here. He played. What'd you play, Fiasco? Pathfinder?
Hi. Yeah, I played Pathfinder, Kingmaker.
Awesome.
Fairly new game.
Awesome. We got Goose here.
Honk.
And Goose, you play Deus Ex, right? Or you stumbled
Deus
through
Ex Mankind Divided. Yep.
it? Wow. We're blowing up. Graves. Graves is here. Graves, you played Hollow Knight.
I sure did.
Awesome. Awesome. Bjorn, you played Assassin's Creed Odyssey, right?
Yes, indeed.
Carson came on in solid with that, let's see, Carson. Graveyard Keeper, right, for you?
Yes, sir. Graveyard Keeper.
And then the lovely Vancy Pants, my wife,
Hey.
and we played The Witcher 3. Alright, so, with no further ado, let's get into it. First and foremost, we are beginning with Carson and Graveyard Keeper. Carson, take it away.
All right. So Graveyard Keeper is kind of in the same vein as what's it called? As Stardew Valley, in the fact that it's like a simulation role playing where you get a piece of land and kind of take care of it. A little bit about it. It was released in August 2018, developed by Lazy Bear Games. They were the people who developed Punch Club, Swaggy Sorcery, mostly like Tycoons and Sims. It was published by Tiny Build, who published Hello Neighbor, Guts and Glory, Cluster Truck, a few of the ones that people might know. It's currently available on PC and Xbox One. That includes people on Linux as well, so I'm sure Goose is pretty happy about that. It has a 7 out of 10 on Steam right now, got a 3 out of 5 on Eurogamer, and apparently 96% of Google users like it.
Very nice. I like
high
the
number.
Yeah, and is it still in alpha? Is it a fully released game?
No, that is the release date is the full release. It was in alpha starting, I think it was in open alpha or open beta over the summer. I know I bought it in there, and it's definitely improved a lot since then.
Awesome. So I've got a little gameplay footage we'll put up, and then you can just kind of talk about the game as we go through.
Kind of ramble on. So yeah, as the title says, you're a graveyard keeper. What you do is you take care of bodies that get put there. You put them in a graveyard. What I'm doing right here is doing an autopsy on it. You take out parts of his body, whether that be the blood, the brains, the heart, things like that.
The fat. I saw you just pull some of that out.
Yes. So what you want to do is if you're gonna bury the body, you want to make it like a pretty body. So you take out like the blood and the fat, so it's like good to bury, and it's a pretty looking body. And then you come over here, you put it in the ground, and you try to make your graveyard as beautiful as possible. And you get like points for it, which like helps you upgrade it and get more stuff in a different aspect of the game. So I fail at burying the body here, but when you bury it, you get money from it, and then you use the money to buy whatever you want. But you have a bunch of different options. You can kind of see my inventory there. I'm showing the burial certificate, but you can put gravestones and whatnot to, again, make it prettier. But if you don't want to do the graveyard keeping, you can do farming, much like you would in Stardew Valley. It's a little bit smaller, so you've got just a few plots here and there that you can kind of take care of, and much less crops. Also, in the video, we've got it's Sunday. You can see the little wheel up in the corner. It's Sunday, so I have to go do a prayer service because I'm also the preacher at the local church. So you do a prayer service, you get things called faith, which you use that to inspect all the items you get, and that gets you talent points. Those talent points are used to unlock different technologies and things, so you can craft more things. You can use new technologies to then open new technologies after that and whatnot, which is kind of annoying that you have to unlock multiple things to actually create and build something, but it's kind of fun because it gives you a way to progress through the story by unlocking new talents and whatnot.
I've got to interrupt real quick because I just watched that sermon. That was. I love that you're just staying in front of. This looks very cultish, by the way. This looks less like a church and more like a cult. And then you're like, yeah, we've got a great church, and everyone was just like, nice, and then they just threw gold at you.
That's the faith. So yeah, you come down here and you pick whatever you want and you study it with the faith, and then you find out what it like deteriorates into, which is used for like alchemy and stuff. But that's stuff that's later on. So you have to get faith points to do this, to get more upgrade points to upgrade your knowledge and then build more stuff. But yeah, you pretty much just say our church great a bunch of times, and then everybody eats it up, and then they throw that at you and then give money to you and whatnot.
So there's a couple of systems, it sounds like, in place that kind of the game builds off of, other than just burying bodies.
Yeah, I mean it's revolved around that, yes, but yeah, every day there's a different event or a different person that shows up. So here you can also make zombies out of the people, which you can use as workers or slaves, essentially. That's a zombie I've got right there. But yeah, every day there's a different thing you can do. So Sunday you direct a church service. On the female sign day, there's like a female singer comes to town, and each of the people have like their own quest lines you go through, and you have to either bring them certain things or talk to somebody and bring them certain things to progress their quest line and whatnot, which unlocks more quest lines essentially. So it's kind of a hassle in that vein, but if you want to, there is an actual in-game story in this. So you start out as like a person in normal daily life, like in like today's time, and then you get hit by a car, and then you die. You wake up here, and you have to find a way to get back to like your time essentially. So you have to like do all that to try to figure it out. So there's actually like a main quest line.
Interesting.
What else? Yeah. So again, we've got, I think this might be the one that there are different ways to dispose of bodies. You can bury them in the graveyard, you can burn them, like cremate them, and those two give you the burial certificates, which get you money. But then the third way, which I think is this one, is the more fun version. Or is this just replaying? I don't know.
No, this is.
But
Yeah, this is
we'll see.
That
We'll
should
see
be-
what I do right here.
Here we go.
Oh,
You probably
I think
want
it's the same one.
You want this guy right there. There you go.
Yes, yeah, this is a different one, and I'll explain a little bit more about this. But what else was I going to do? Yeah, there's wood cutting, mining, things like that to, again, craft more things to be able to progress through the story. So there's a lot of different ways you can do it. There are plenty of options. If you liked fishing in Stardew Valley, that the same fishing mechanic is here, and I know that's either loved or hated by almost everyone. This is still the same video, I think.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Okay, weird. Must have been something weird with the upload. Well, we'll just keep going down the list. See if we can. No, that's the same one. There we go. There's something different. I don't know what this is, but it's definitely different.
Oh, this
Dungeons.
is the combat. This is the so actually right there, that circle, that is actually a cultist hangout. And I was talking earlier to guys about putting skulls on the wall and making a fountain of blood and things like that. So that's like a ritual chamber you can do rituals with and whatnot.
I was right. You are the leader of a cult, not a religion.
It's under the church.
Cult's
and
not really a religion.
it wasn't me. It's the other guy named Snake. He's kind of a ruffian, but he's a sweetheart. I think he leads the cult. I just make it nice for him.
Really good guy, you know, when you get down to brass tacks.
Yeah. But then there's
You're like the
combat.
human resources.
Yeah.
I just bring him the bones to make the skulls on the wall and the crucified skeletons and whatnot. It's no big deal. He's helping me. I'm helping him. It's fun. But this down in the dungeon, there's combat. As you saw, I killed a couple bats, a couple slimes, and it's not hard. You just hit the space bar to kill things, and I think there were 20 floors. You have to kill everything on one floor to move to the next, and you just keep going down to kill stuff, get stuff from their drops, and they usually drop quite a bit of stuff, but I always run out of space, which is always an issue, so I have to wind up destroying things in my inventory. But what else was there?
So it looks pretty similar to Stardew Valley. Is it kind of the same vein that there is really no end to the game, or is there like a?
I think I was kind of saying that earlier. There is like a main storyline where, like, since you died and you want to go back to your like main life, I think there is an end to it. I haven't gotten there yet, but I believe there is an end to it where you like complete a ritual and you get back to present day or something like that. That's my guess. I don't know for sure, but I would have to keep playing. I've actually been playing it quite a bit. Just there's a lot of stuff you have to grind through to get there. But what else do I get? There's a number of characters. I don't know if I've already mentioned that, but everybody's got their own storylines. Probably my favorite one is either the Talking Skull, which helps you out. I think he used to be the old graveyard keeper. You dig him up at the start of the game, and he essentially teaches you how to be a graveyard keeper. And then the donkey who brings you the bodies every day. He actually gets upset that he's doing it for free, essentially. So you wind up having to give him carrots every day to bring you more bodies. And he talks about embracing like the communist ideals and things like that, and it's just kind of a silly way about that.
Sounds normal.
Yeah, it's fun.
Your standard communist donkey. Yeah, it's a
Communist talking donkeys who kill their bodies. Yeah,
popular trope. Yeah.
yeah. And
Does Shrek show up?
Yeah.
the Shrek show.
Giant green ogres. You have one more video here too, if that would help spark any interest on what else we've got.
So this is the farming. It's really straightforward. You just plant it and you pick it up, and then that's about it. It's not like Stardew Valley where you have to water it every day. You just kind of plant it, leave it for a few days, come back, put some fertilizer, something like that.
And then is the farming used kind of like the fat and bones and stuff you're collecting for alchemy and crafting, or how does the farming stuff get used?
You can cook with it. There's a bunch of recipes you learn from everybody. So as you do their quest lines, they give you recipes, or you can buy recipes, or you can just straight up sell the stuff to get money to buy other stuff. So that's about the only thing I know that you can do with it is cooking and selling it. And then you can also grow grapes for wine and grow hops for beer, things like that. But it's not nearly as overwhelming as the Stardew Valley one is. That's about the only thing you can do, and that it revolves around there. And then this video, it's a long video, but I kind of went through just like 10 minutes of me just playing, and it shows like the skill tree and whatnot, but that's not terribly important. It just shows it a little bit. Overall, a pretty enjoyable game. It's not expensive as you would anticipate from like a top-down pixelated one. I think it's $20 on Steam, and then it was on sale for about $14, I think, last Steam sale.
Nice.
Overall, I gave it 8 talking alcoholic skulls and 1/2 communist talking donkey ass out of 10, just because it really filled that niche that had to get that little ass in there. But it filled that niche that Stardew Valley left for me, especially after like playing the multiplayer version. This kind of gave a darker tone to it, and was a little more fun to see different aspects instead of just farming every day. Overall, it's pretty good. I played it since beta, and I've enjoyed seeing the game grow and seeing progression to the different skill trees and progression of the story. There were a few things that they did where there's supposed to be this big open area called the town, which was just south of the village here.
Mm-hmm.
But it was supposed to be accessible in the main game, but then they made it so if you tried to walk in there, you essentially get smited by lightning, saying like God won't let you in there or something like that. So they kind of made that a cop out, in my opinion, where they just didn't want to either put it in, or it was too much work to put in a whole new area, which is understandable. But when you're building up towards that, and then you kind of like cut it off real hard like that, it was kind of a turn off for me, and I think that probably led to at least half of that point coming off for me. Overall, enjoyable game, and you kind of make it what you want and play however you want. And
so thumbs up, you'd say?
Yeah, I think so. If you enjoy burning bodies or burying bodies or even throwing them in the river, it's It's an enjoyable game.
Removing fat.
Yeah, if you can turn the fat into oil and then cook with it, or do all kinds of things. Yeah.
If you like Stardew
Sounds
Valley
kinda
and
gross.
body stuff,
Yeah, if you like Stardew Valley and you have kind of a dark, twisted sense of humor, you would definitely enjoy this game.
All right, we'll have to think about picking that one up.
Mhm.
Who's next on the chopping block? Hollow Knight by Mr. Graves.
All right. Hold on.
Wake up, buddy. Stretch.
All right. Yeah. So Hollow Knight. I picked this up on the Switch. It was $15 on the Switch. It's actually it's on sale right now on the Discord store for like $10. So basics of this game, it's essentially a adventure exploration game with hack and slash style combat and just lots of like boss battles. So there's a lot of like little bosses that you have to fight to progress through. So starting out, it's I had heard that this game was a lot like what is that? Dark Souls. And I can kind of see that with like the fighting and the boss battles that you have to do. But to me, it felt almost like how I play Skyrim, to where you don't really know what you're doing, and there's just a ton of exploration, and you run into enemies all the time. Um, so when you first start the game, there really isn't like a quest or a specific goal that you're really going for. They don't give you any guidelines. The only questing that there is there's you eventually meet an NPC that wants you to kill a certain amount of each enemy. And actually, in this first video, it mentions there's actually 140 different types of enemies. So I don't know if I'll ever even get to the point of completing that. Some of them you just kill like 4 of them. Others you need to kill like a dozen or so. But yeah, so essentially you're a bug. All of everything in here is essentially bugs, and you are a nail master, or that's what they want you, what you're trying to be, I guess. Your weapon is essentially is a nail. So combat's fairly interesting. It can be really difficult fighting some of these bosses, having to learn the strategies between each one. So combat is basic hack and slash. You can jump, slash down, forward, but stuff like that. You eventually learn some powered up melee abilities, such as like a slash or a spinning attack. But there's also a couple spells that you learn as well. So there's like an energy ball that you can shoot out, and you eventually learn like you jump in the air and you come down and you hit the ground real hard, and it like does a spell blast. And you have like a short energy bar. So the combat's it's fine. I think it works out pretty well with the game. It's very challenging at some points. The boss battles I've been involved in, and I haven't completed this game yet. Just to be clear, I think I have over 30 hours on this game so far, and with the Switch, it actually came with all the DLC, which was pretty nice. I don't know what it would have cost to purchase all the DLC separately, but the game seems to be really large. I'm quite surprised with this little 2D side scroller. So yeah, the exploration part is interesting because you're essentially going underground. You arrive at this city called Dirtmouth, and then there's a couple NPCs that you can talk to. There's a couple vendors that you can buy stuff from, and you just start exploring underneath Dirtmouth and all these like caverns and stuff. So an interesting thing about this is you don't get a map right away. You have to actually travel through and find a guy that's a cartographer that's roaming these different caverns and making a map. And then you purchase the map from him, and then you complete the map by traveling the rest of it. So the map that you get just shows a portion, and then you have to travel the rest of the zone to complete it. There's multiple zones that you'll be in. So each time you get to a new zone, you don't have a map for that zone. The map also doesn't have any kind of like GPS location, so you don't know where you're at. There is a relic that will actually kind of give you that, but the relics are. I'll talk about relics in a little bit. They help you with combat and stuff. But yeah, so essentially you fill out a map, you wander around the areas, it fills it out, and you have to kind of navigate and figure out these locations and where you're going. And again, there's like no direction at all. You just kind of wander around and find things to fight. When you leave, like there's in each zone, you kind of leave areas. They're like little loading areas. And when you go back, all the enemies respawn. So it's not like you just clear an area and that's it. I found it kind of difficult and frustrating with the map system, but then again, I've kind of enjoyed the difficulty part of it and the challenge. It makes you think a little bit more, remember where you're at, and not just focus on a little dot on a mini map. There's a lot of areas that are locked out. You eventually need to find certain abilities. So when you first start the game, all you can really do is jump. Then you eventually find a cloak that allows you to dash. Then you'll find a hook that allows you to wall jump. And you find little things like this over and over. You'll find like this super dash that allows you to dash really far across the screen. And there's certain areas of these zones that are locked out to you if you don't have those abilities, and you have to explore everywhere to find it. So after, I think the other night I was at like 24 hours of playthrough, and then I found the double jump ability. So it's not like that it gets handed to you right away. It doesn't get handed to you at all. You have to go into kind of some of these dark and dreary caverns and fight your way through. There's some hidden passages that you have to go through. Some require you to go through a combat scenario with a boss or a mini boss. Some will require keys that you need to find. So when you kill things, you get like currency, and you can purchase from certain vendors different things. There's some upgrades to like health. There's an energy bar that is used for like your spells, and you can purchase things that will increase your capacity of your energy bar. Death in this game is pretty similar to probably other roguelike style games where you die and then you respawn at your last save point. The only thing is now you lost all your money, so all your coins, and what happens, it leaves a kind of a ghost of yourself at your previous location where you died, and that ghost has all your coins. So you have to travel back to get to your ghost, and then you have to attack him a few times to actually kill him and regain what you lost. The downside is if you happen to get into like a really tough area that was really hard to get into, and you die before you get back to that ghost, you lost everything from that first death. So I've lost a lot of coins over playing this game, not being able to get back. Death is a very common part of this game, at least for me.
I believe the phrase you're looking for there is "get good."
Get good. Maybe if I was younger and I had some of these Twitch reactions, Yeah, so a lot of the maps are kind of dark and gritty. You kind of learn a little bit about the areas you're in. There, some of the areas used to be like kingdoms, and now for some reason, all the bugs that have gone down underneath Dirtmouth have been corrupted. So they attack you, and so you'll eventually find yourself in a kingdom where there's uh, like actual soldiers with shields, and learning all those different strategies to kind of defeat these enemies. And then eventually you get to the point where you've gone back and forth through these zones that you just kind of run past things. So if you hate backtracking, you'll hate this game. There is so much backtracking in this. Because once you get, like last night when I got the double jump, I went back to a bunch of areas where I knew there were areas I could not get to without a double jump feature.
Tell me about
There's
this
a little-
giant bug that we're looking at here on the screenshot, like this dark thing.
Okay,
that a
so
boss?
this thing, I haven't actually gotten to this point. Um, I'm gonna say it looks very similar to some other things I found. This is probably just scenery in here. There's a few other places like this where you'll see like big giant dead things in the background. Some of them are a part of the scene that you're in. This one doesn't look like it's a part of anything. That looks like he's holding a cup with some kind of black liquid flowing out of it. So some of these screenshots I just grabbed off the internet because I couldn't figure out how to get them to transfer from my Switch. Um,
I think we do have one
Yeah,
of a
it's-
boss though here. I think. Oh yeah, this next one. It looks like a boss at least.
Actually, no. Well, is that one a boss? I don't. That might be a boss fight, but that guy originally. So when you some of the abilities you learn from combat with your nail are from previous nail masters, and this guy is one of them. This guy is a guy who's given up the nail for the brush, so he's actually a painter. And you eventually find this guy, and he trains you and teaches you one of the special abilities. And there's actually two others throughout, and they're all random. Yeah, this I know there is a zone where there's like an arena that you can do kind of combat challenges, and maybe that's in the arena with combat challenges, but
Mhm.
I can't say for sure.
It looks kind of
Um,
like a little arena with a little crowd on the background. there.
Yeah. Um, yeah, so there's some random NPCs. Like the other night, there was this one random NPC where you could stash it was a bank. You could stash your coin in this bank and then come back for it later. That way, if you die and then not make it back to your ghost in time or die again, you don't lose all the currency. Until I went back to the bank and the banker was gone. I was so upset. Eventually ran into her last night though. So, but yeah, there's
So did the banker
run
just
across-
steal your stuff, or did she just relocate?
yes, no, straight up steal, straight up steal. I was so angry at this, but
Wow, I'd be pissed too.
yeah, there's a few like some of the add-ons added a few things. There's this essence that you can gather. You have like this essence sword that you can attack a ghost, and that with it, and you actually get into a combat challenge. So they've really added. There's a lot of different boss battles that you can partake in, and they're fairly unique and challenging. They as you attack, they eventually will change their attack pattern or go faster. It's some of these are so difficult. Then you can there's other things where you gather essence, and then you find there's a lady that when you give her the essence, you get more stuff. But really, it's just a kind of big exploration. Yeah. So yeah, so I gave this 9.5 grubs in a jar out of 10. These grubs are actually things in the games that you will find, and you break the glass open. You're basically rescuing grubs, and there's a place that you go to that will grub guy that actually gives you rewards and stuff. But super challenging game. A lot of platforming in this game. Some challenging platforming. Some of them require different abilities to use, so you have to explore all these other places. You'll get into places that just look too creepy and you want to leave, and then you end up having to go back because there's nowhere else to go. And then you find something that you needed. But pretty fun, pretty challenging, played really well on the Switch. I was a little surprised that I liked it as much as I did. So great game.
We'll have to look for that one as well then. I'm gonna have to go and just buy every single one of these games, guys. It's gonna make it real tough.
Just yeah, this
Winter
is one
sale
I didn't
comes
mean
up
to get
right
out.
soon.
That's true, the Steam Winter Sale. And you said this is available not only on the Switch, but I think also on PlayStation, Xbox, like everything, right?
Yeah, it's like on everything. I know it's on Steam. It's actually in the Discord store right now for $10. It's 33% off, I think, is what it said. And then I believe there's still another portion of DLC that they're going to add as well. I saw that when I purchased it that I'd get the next DLC for free as well.
Nice. All right. Well, we've had two really high-scoring games. I'm thinking we're probably going to be moving on to another one. I'm pretty sure that Bjorn is just going to wax eloquent on Assassin's Creed Odyssey for like 3 hours. So
I had a really good time while I was playing it. Honestly,
Way too good of a time, apparently.
I didn't expect to have so much fun, and it's not maybe the most original game on the list, but I found it on special for Black Friday, and it was more than happy to pick it up. I picked it up on PS4. It's also on Xbox One, PC, Switch. It's everywhere, basically. And if you've played an Assassin's Creed title before, it's very similar. But from what I've heard, because I haven't played the other ones, it's a collection of the best aspects of all of them. Like there's naval combat, there's there's naval combat, there's the mercenary system, there's a lot of things in the game. If you switch the video,
yeah,
there's a little example of combat at the start. You start as Leonidas in ancient Greece.
Hell yeah,
And,
you get the beard too?
Oh yeah. Oh, yeah.
Nice.
I mean, you can't be Leonidas without the beard, right? That's kind of like.
I'm getting it now. I'm
Yeah.
about to purchase this right now.
It's a really fun title. There's a lot to do in this game. It starts with a little bit of story, so we can just there's a lot of things to do in the game. It's honestly very overwhelming in the start because I have it listed here. There's hunter camps, bandit camps, fort, historical locations, there's ruins, caves, and all of that stuff is just side to whatever. One second, I'm having trouble with the UI right now.
So I see here that
sorry.
we're in a cutscene. This is a 2018
Yeah.
game, right?
Yeah, it came out in 2018, and it's made in Ubisoft Quebec, which I was happy to notice. There's a lot of things, a lot of quests, a lot of side that let you pick between like good and bad options, and they impact the world some. I've noticed that they don't really change much about the outcome, but it just changes the cinematics, so it's not a bad thing if you just decide to pick what you feel like picking most of the time. If you want to switch to the next one.
Yeah.
Can you go forwards a little bit so we get
Yeah, I
just
can
an
jump up.
example of the combat?
Let me.
Because I didn't expect the first cinematic to be so long.
Here we go.
So yeah, that person picked the warrior skill tree, which is mostly for combat. And when as you can see, you can really get very powerful with that skill tree. There's 3 skill trees: assassin, hunter, and combat warrior. As you can guess, the names really just explain themselves. I picked assassin because honestly, when you're playing Assassin's Creed,
Yeah, I mean it's not Warriors Creed, right?
Yeah.
You gotta. So
you kind of want to go for the stealth combat.
in the lower left, those must be like abilities that you're working with.
Yeah, exactly. That's a one thing I didn't like as much because you only have 4 slots for abilities. So when you start picking your abilities in the skill tree, you only get to pick 4 usable ones, and all the rest are just bonuses and things like that, which is not a terrible thing, but it just limits your gameplay a little bit, I feel. You can also, if there's a L1, L2 is for the bow, and that also has another set of 4. So you can always build in the hunter skill tree while building in the other one. One sec. You can switch to the next.
Okay. Character creation? Or no, character gearing.
Yeah, there's a lot of loot, and that was one of the parts of the game that really confused me at the start, honestly. As you can see, there's a bunch of colors. It's just like World of Warcraft, where you have gray, blue, purple, and orange items. Most of the time, you want to equip the purple items because they have the most bonus stats to your score. You can see it at the bottom there, your combat damage. I did not notice that was not in English. But yeah, that's your assassin score, combat score, and hunter score. And that just changes based on whatever items you equip. You have bonus to poison, fire, all of these things just drop randomly in the world. Whatever you're doing usually drops one of those.
And I'm digging the horse in the lower right. That's a good looking stallion you got there.
Oh yeah, you can see that's not my my pictures because I was playing it on the PS4 and I don't want to take a picture of my TV and I don't know how to upload the pictures.
Thank you.
Could have tried
I
the
appreciate you not taking a picture of your TV.
I could have tried the share button though. I should have figured that out now that I think about it.
Ooh.
That
Okay, so
horse
these.
looks pretty amazing, though.
Yeah, it does. I found a unicorn in Athens. You can buy a unicorn skin. When you run, you have rainbow trails coming out of your hoofs. It's pretty. There's the 3 different skill trees. The first one is the hunter one. As you can see on the left side, there's 4 little icons. That's your ranged icons. So that's why you can always build in the hunter tree. And on the right side is your melee icons. So you can only pick 4 of those. And 4 in the range, but the range has its own skill tree, basically. So the higher you go, the more levels it takes, and the spear level on the left is tied to the cultists that you can see in the top right tab that we'll see in a minute or two. That's a whole other side of the game. There's the main quest, which is basically finding out what happened to you and your family at the start, and there's also the mercenaries, which is just like in Origins, just a little bit better made. You can go and rank up. I think you can. If you switch to the next slide, it's going to go to the ship management. There's also naval combat, just like in the other Assassin's Creed. It's honestly just a collection of all the better stuff from all the other Assassin's Creed. There's a lot of stuff to upgrade in here also. As you can see here, you can recruit also anybody in the world. So you go around and you, let's say, take over a fort, but you notice that the general on the other side is a legendary quality general. Instead of killing him, you can knock him out and hire him to come work for you on your ship. So when you go outside in naval combat, he jumps up. When you board another ship, he jumps on the other ship with you and just starts wrecking shop. Honestly, having 4 legendary ones makes that really ridiculously trivial. They just stomp everything.
I love that you just have to knock them out and then like, oh yeah, you want to come and work for me? I know that we were fighting, but
that's exactly what happens. You grab them by the hand, you go, whatever they're paying you, I guarantee I'll pay you more. And you help him get up, and he just runs backwards. It's really great. You can get mercenaries like that. You can't convert cultists because cultists are pretty passionate.
Yeah, so is that this next one here? Who are these guys?
This is the mercenary tab right here. At the bottom, you can see tier 8. Every time you go up a tier, you get a bonus. If I have the game running right now, I can go check them out. You get a bonus, usually price reduction on items. Like I'm on tier 4 right now. It says a professional carpenter now works on my ship, reducing the cost of ship upgrades by 50%. So really, really valuable upgrades there. And if you kill a mercenary that's higher than you, you rank up, and they rank down. That's just how it goes.
Cool. And then
You
are the
can-
mercenaries used just for those perks, or do they actually like join you on your adventures?
You can recruit them if you knock them out and you help them get up. They jump on your ship. But usually, the more let's say illegal things you do, like let's say you start stealing stuff in front of people, murdering like politicians and stuff is a side quest sometimes. And if you do it in broad daylight, people see you and you get a bounty put on your head. That bounty, you can go either kill the sponsor, which is marked on your map with a little icon, or you can pay for it, or you can just keep doing your thing and it's going to go down slowly. But while the higher your bounty is, the more mercenaries are going to come and try to collect the bounty by killing you. So it's not too bad usually when you're just running around. But let's say you're capturing a fort and the mercenary shows up because your bounty's too high at this point. It really spices things up. Really makes it hard.
You got to knock out a lot of people when that happens.
Oh yeah. Honestly, like that's when you start busting out the melee. It's the combat. I played it on hard, and the combat really is rough. When you're not spec'd for combat properly, or at the start you don't have that many spells, it's really rough to just have a good fair fight when there's 7 people around you. It's not like the early Assassin's Creed where you just block and wait for the.
That was going to be my
the
question,
counter.
because I remember most being surrounded by enemies in Assassin's Creed, and you just kind of whittled them down one at a time.
No, it's a lot better. You have a not soft, but a quick and long, and you just weave them together, and there's a lot of combos you can do. This last tab is the cultist slide. That's that's another whole side of the game. So you have the main quest where you try to figure out what happened to you and your family, your mother, your father, and that is all tied together by the Cosmos cult, which has like tentacles all over ancient Greece. So you go around and you start collecting clues. Where you see there's exclamation points around them, that means you have a new clue, or you can reveal them. Once you reveal one on a branch, you get new clues for the next ones on the branch. You just start going up like that until you get to the middle portion. I haven't even finished a branch. I have one branch almost done, and I still don't know what happens. But I think you unlock the person. You unlock the major player, and then that person you can go maybe kill or not. Who knows? So that's honestly one of the best games I've played in a while. And single player was something I was missing for a while. I gave it 9 out of 10 Spartan kicks because once you get the Spartan kick ability, which is available level 1, if you just stand next to any type of building or on a roof and people get to you, you can just kick them down, and gravity is insanely strong in this game. It takes one little square of adrenaline, and you can just deal thousands of damage in there.
Just kicking people into wells, just all over the place.
Oh, it's insane.
That's a perfect icon.
And
9
it
out of
fits
10.
pretty well for the circles. So
How many times did you yell when you did that?
once. I can't do it more.
Just Sparta!
He does so many kicks, it would be exhausting.
Yeah, I would run out of breath too fast.
All right, well, let's jump on to our next game, Deus Ex: Mankind Divided, by Goose.
Alrighty, so Deus Ex: Mankind Divided is the most recent and most likely final entry into the Deus Ex series. It was final for a while until they reboot it. Critically, it was reviewed really well, but it didn't sell really well because they had this was like the very beginning of awful DLC monetization programs, to the point where there was DLC that was literally like, buy this version, you get the game 10 days early, that kind of stuff. And people hated them for it because they were the very first people to try it. Now that's pretty much the norm, is that, if you pre-order, you get the game 5 days in advance. So you can thank Deus Ex and Eidos Montreal for doing that. It came out in 2016. Retails for probably like $18 full price on Steam, but with Steam sale, it usually gets around $5. So it's actually probably the most budget item you're going to see today to pick up. And it's available for pretty much every system: PC, Xbox, PS4, Linux, Mac, all of those are included. and then it focuses primarily on the action RPG style with a very heavy storyline driven. So you're pretty much on rails the whole time, but you can have kind of spec out and play how you want, with either being first person shooter or stealth. So if you want to skip over, we got a little bit of a video that kind of sets the scene for you.
Yeah, let me see if
So
I can't get that
preface
to load. It might need to pop out of the presentation for just a second.
Maybe if you didn't record in such high quality, Goose.
I'm sorry. High quality life. First thing I want to comment though is it actually starts with, when you start playing, it's like, hey, do you want to watch this 12-minute recap video? Like, in case you didn't play the first game, because it's the direct sequel that takes place years after.
That's actually
It's,
really nice. I'm
it
going to talk
actually-
a little bit about how nice that would have been in the game that I'm playing.
If you actually want to turn the sound up on this, if you can.
Yeah, I think we can.
I once thought I could save the world.
Okay, perfect.
Now look at it.
In yet another augmented terror attack, 251 passengers aboard Sista Airlines Flight 451 were killed. When an augmented passenger broke into the plane's cockpit and ruthlessly butchered its flight crew. Details recovered from the black box recorder suggest that the man may have been suffering flashbacks to the AUG incident. That horrible day 2 years ago when augmented people all over the world flew into a psychotic killing spree, causing the greatest loss of life in recent history.
So essentially what happened is people have these augments, so they get their bodies replaced, and people fix them up, and it's like, oh hey, but eventually everyone went crazy and they murdered a bunch of people, and it was really, really bad.
So it's I definitely am intrigued by the cutscene. tell us about how the game actually plays, because I've heard mixed reviews.
The game actually plays a little rough. So one of the things I really like is it's big on choice. So even right here at the very beginning, I mean, we literally just started a game. You're watching this real time. I paused the screen so you have a screenshot here, but it literally says, okay, you're 2 minutes into the game. Do you want to go lethal or not lethal? And of course, I want to go lethal
Always lethal.
because you can't leave people behind who can get back up and shoot you. So you got to cover your six. And essentially, it just gives you lots of options, lots of choice. And it's very, if you play the old Deus Ex games, it's very classic. It has the old school inventory management where you had to like shuffle things around and it didn't just automatically sort through and you had unlimited ammo to pick up. It has all the different what are called augmentations, which are the abilities you can switch between. So you really get to pick how you play. So if you want to play a straight up tank who can run in and just get shot in the face and walk it off, or do you want to play a dude who sneaks around and shoots these nano blades, which are like giant swords out of your arms, and just like pin cushions people to the wall? You get to pick how you do it. Do you want to stealth through and literally kill no one? The game will reward all types of play, which I found really, really cool. Another thing I actually loved was it shows you this little video on the right, which will actually show you what the ability does and like how it works, which is so handy where you're like, I don't know what this skill does. And you're like, oh, it makes me regenerate health faster, or it gives me more total health, or it kind of makes things go quicker.
And can you see those before you purchase the ability? Or like before you unlock it?
So you can see all of them from the very beginning. So actually here, you want to back that up just a few seconds. This is one of the abilities you can pick up really early in the game, and it's basically the ability to punch through weakened walls. And so it lets you like look around for, if you see there's 3 big cracks on this wall that we walk up to. I punched this a little bit too quickly because I was just so excited. But there's these like little ways all over the map. So sometimes you're playing like stealthy, but you can do this really loud punch and it lets you sneak around to another area and you can kind of do all sorts of stuff. It's very much like a platforming type game where it's how you get around. Like getting vertical is really important. Kind of sneaking around your opponents can be so valuable. Because sometimes there's 20 guys in a room and they will kill you in 2 seconds. Because if you're playing on the what's called This Is Deus Ex difficulty, like the game is hard because you can't get caught, or you have to just like get the drop on people really quick. Another thing, if you've ever played the originals, hacking is a big part of the game. So you can either kind of search around and scrum and find passcodes by like checking bodies or checking computers and hacking them, or you can actually go through and play this little hacking minigame, which I actually found horrible, and I actually hated it so much that you can actually learn a skill that lets you you get a little, it's like a lockpick essentially, and it's like a digital lockpick. You go up, you can scan any computer, and after like 10 seconds it'll unlock it, so you can do that to any door. So I literally put 0 points in hacking the entire game and never once was unable to open a door or a lock or anything. So sometimes the balancing can just be kind of goofy in this game. You can see it as actually an FPS, so it's a cover-based shooter at sometimes. It does this weird, like, you start aiming down sights, but it does this third-person over-the-shoulder shooting, which was one of my really big gripes of the game. The least accurate form of shooting was when you're like, oh, I'm in cover, and I'm supposed to be ready for this firefight, and I can't aim for anything. So you end up having to just either completely ditch cover, or you just go ghost and turn your invisibility shield on, and you basically just turn completely invisible, line up your shot, shoot somebody, and then immediately go to cover and wait for your shields to recover, or your energy to recover, so you can go back and go invisible again and repeat that whole process. And it's just one big loop. So as you see here, some more inventory management because, hey, we don't have enough space to pick up this pistol that we want, so we're just going to go over there and grab that pistol. But as I mentioned earlier, being able to move around and kind of get through the maps and stealth your way through is a really fun part of these games. They're designed to have more than one playthrough. The least interesting way to play is run and gun, shoot everything. So if you actually take your time, you can sneak through the entire game and never kill a single person. Except for, I think, the big bad boss. I think you have to kill him, which kind of ruins the whole never killing anybody thing.
Well, I mean, you gotta ultimately get to something, right?
Oh, this guy's about to die real bad.
Yeah, that looks like it hurt.
So one
Point
thing that
blank
doesn't
on the
really make
spine?
sense. Yeah, you literally slit his throat and then stab him in the spine. So we're going to see here, we're going to run up to this lock, and we're like, oh man, I don't want to do this hacking thing. I hate the hacking game. But if you notice up above, you can say like, hey, look, I can just get vertical on these people. So I'm going to go climb up, I'm going to move up above them, and go that route in order to say like, I can get up above you, I don't need to worry about this, I can just sneak over. And instead of having to deal with any of that, I can just move through a little another way. So that was one thing I always appreciated. There's always more than one way to solve the problem. So if you didn't want to fight those three guys at all, you could just like knock them all unconscious and then sneak over this way and like get to the next area, which is really cool. Of course, not everything can be resolved with like sneaking and combat. Sometimes you have to talk your way out of problems. So this is an area early on in the game where you're dealing with essentially like a cult leader, which seems to be a theme in all of the games we played. There's some form of cult. Everyone reviewed a game with a cult in it.
Indeed.
But this guy is basically trying to like hypnotize us. But conveniently, the main character has a augment for reading people's emotions, and that should turn on here in the top left corner in a second. So it's one of the augments you can get early on in the game that you don't have to get, but it just changes how you play the entire game, because I can see, oh, hey, here's the different like key items for things he says to get positive or negative reactions out of the person. So it kind of lets you like cheat your way through the conversations. You go like, oh, if I say this, it'll make him happy, versus if I say this, it'll make the person upset. And so it really completely changes how you play the game, especially if it's your first playthrough, of just knowing like, do I know what to say? Or if I say this, is it better or worse? Or like, is this going to make it easier? Because there are obvious bonuses you can get. So in some missions, you might not have to fight a bad guy at all if you can just sweet talk your way out of it. Or they might give you additional bonuses or say, hey, I was only supposed to give you like half of this reward, but I'm going to double it and give you way better rewards because I like you so much because of how you talk. So all in all, I found this game to be really, really fun. It was very, I wouldn't say it was super challenging just because you could get overpowered so quickly. I mean, the nano blade arm things. So if you saw, I picked up a pistol and I converted it into bits. And I think that costs like 30 bits, so you could use that. It takes 50 to get 8 of the nano blades. So basically, every enemy you kill, you get 8 more nano blades, but every enemy you can be killed with 1 nano blade. So if you're seeing the math there, you could basically just kill 2 guys, and now you can clear a whole map. So it was fun. I really liked it, but if you want to go ahead and pull that up.
Yeah, so let me flip back to our presentation here really quick.
Yep.
Boop. All right, back into it. 8 out of 10 nanoblades, huh?
Yep. So I gave it an 8 out of 10. It's a good game. I think it's, for the price it's at, it's definitely a fun FPS. There's so much world building and so much plot. I mean, you're literally you're fighting for good guys, you're fighting for bad guys. You can be the hero and the villain all in one. It's got an awesome story behind it. There's a lot of depth. and for the price,
So-
you really can't beat it.
With the story, did it make you feel like you wanted to go back to the previous games and play through those, or
I've actually played all of the previous Deus Ex games, from the
Okay, so
original
this is
Deus
not-
Ex to this. So this was just like me checking off the last one that I'd never quite gotten around to. And actually, this is a prequel too. So the second to last game, the one before this one, was the like prequel. This is the one right after that, and all the other Deus Ex games come after. All the older games come after these two, timeline wise.
oh, okay, I didn't know that.
So a true Star Wars story going on here.
Yeah, we got episode, let's see. This would be 1 and 2, and then 4, 5, 6 were made like 10 years ago. Classic stuff. But all in all, I think really it's, if you like a first-person shooter, if you like sneaking around, if you like finding creative ways to get around puzzles and problems, and sometimes, like, you got to fight your way through, you got to sneak your way through. I think the game's pretty fair about that, and I really liked it. I just felt there were some things that could get really annoying. Every time you bump into an NPC, it's going to give you the same 2 pieces of dialogue. If they're going to say, like, hey, screw you, augmented guy. Or they're going to go, oh, you're augmented, you're our hero, because I have this robot leg. And for no explainable reason, they say, like, half the population is, like, missing all of their arms and legs. If there was some sort of, like, horrible landmine epidemic in Prague, which is where the game is primarily based out of. Because every other person's like, I'm missing an arm, I'm missing a leg, I'm missing all of my arms and legs. And that part just didn't quite make sense. You think about it, how many amputees do you see in a day out, like, when you're out and about? So
Not a lot. Although, if you could cut your arm off and replace it with a sweet augmented arm.
oh, dude, if I could shoot those sword things, deal.
In a heartbeat.
In this day and age.
Yeah.
Nice.
Like,
I can.
that
I
would
can.
be
Do,
so
I can
cool.
do. Do you want me to start doing research on that with my biomedical engineering degree?
Yes.
Do it.
Well, once you get one.
Yeah. Once you're
I'm almost
qualified
there.
to start cutting
Ooh.
arms off.
Almost there.
Almost there.
Speaking of cutting arms off, I'm sure that happened plenty of times in our next game. I assume that most everyone in
Yes.
the Pathfinder universe is also missing a limb, but probably for different reasons.
Yeah. Probably from some paladin or some berserker or something. But yeah,
So
So,
Fiasco, tell us
yeah.
about this.
Pathfinder Kingmaker was my selection. It was a very enjoyable game and one of the first CRPGs that's really kind of locked me down and made me like, oh, just one more hour. I want to figure out what's going on next. But yeah, Pathfinder Kingmaker was developed by Owlcat Games, and was published by Deep Silver, and it's based on the Paizo. I think I got that right. Paizo Publishing's Pathfinder franchise, which is similar to D&D. I'm meeting more and more individuals that prefer Pathfinder over D&D, especially like 5e and stuff. But really good time. I've enjoyed it. It's got a 6.8 on IGN, a 7 to 10 on Steam. So it's doing pretty good. And I think its first DLC is coming out in Windows, Linux, and Mac, and it's a isometric RPG or CRPG. And it goes following kind of like your Baldur's Gate and your Divinity Original Sin type stuff, which I've played those, but Pathfinder Kingmaker has been the first one that's kind of like I said, I spent more than 50 hours on this, and I've only scratched the surface. And Pathfinder's the first one that's gotten me to that level.
So Fiasco, this is basically an RPG using all of the spells and information and stuff from the Pathfinder universe. Is that correct?
Yes, you're correct. And these first couple of slides that I'm going to do here is kind of showing a lot of the options that you have in making a character. This has been like the closest game I have participated in that's kind of been as similar to our D&D journeys that we've recently or previously jumped into. And one of the things about the video game is you're limited on the possibilities versus what people prefer playing D&D and Pathfinder IRL is because there is no limitation. I mean, there's rule sets, but there's so many things you can do in the real world versus in the video. So right here, and just difficulty alone on this page that I'm showing here, all the different options you can choose from. I chose to go normal mode. but you can go challenging hard and fair mode, and what that does, it adjusts, how many, like what the crit hits, how hard they hit you. It controls whether or not your companions level up automatically, or you have to manipulate every piece of that, the damage, and so on and so forth. I spent a very long time on character creation on this, mainly trying out the different classes, um, trying out the spells and the abilities of them. I made 3 different characters before I finally settled on one, but that was like 2 to 3 hours worth of effort of me.
Is that per character, 2 to 3 hours?
No, it's 2 to 3 hours figuring out what character I wanted to play.
I'm sure you probably could spend 2 to 3 hours doing that, right? I feel like half my time playing Skyrim was character creation.
Yeah, it was it was pretty fun. So this is a little generic character that I kind of created, just to kind of show that what you get into whenever you make it. You got your races on here. You got human, elf, dwarf, gnome, halfling, half elf, half orc, and Asmar. And I'm sure there's many more races in the Pathfinder realm, but this kind of shows how limited sometimes the programs can be versus the actual games.
Interesting that they have the main hand versus right hand. I mean, I guess if you're building kind of like a D&D or Pathfinder style character, those are all important things. But
Yep. Yeah, definitely. On the next page here, we got, so I chose on this one a barbarian, and the piece that I wanted to show here is you have your barbarian. To the right of the main class, you have other options. You can be just a standard barbarian, and then they have Armored Hulk, Mad Dog, and Invulnerable Ranger. And each of those kind of have like its own little basic path that you can go down, and it gives you some further options. Like right here, it shows on the Invulnerable Ranger, some barbarians learn to take whatever comes their way. So this is more of like a tanky version of the Ranger, and then on the class progression there, all of that is adjusted differently. From the last slide to this slide, you can see some of the changes. I didn't really highlight what those changes are, but essentially, starting at level 2, they start getting more endurance and can take a hit a little bit better, or their rage is adjusted off of taking damage rather than hitting and swinging like a warrior archetype in like WoW or something.
so all of these are basically just the backbones that go into the actual RPG. Is it?
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yep.
That's crazy.
Yeah, this is like you take back like in D&D. Yeah, you have your pre-generated characters that some of us might play for a one shot or whatever. But this is like your pride and joy, that the character that you may use in different campaigns or in different settings. This allows you to choose so much in that realm. Weapon. So on this slide right here, we got your abilities. So a barbarian, it's melee, or you could be ranged. If I chose whatever weapon I chose to, I could be a ranged barbarian, or I can use a weapon. I chose this orc double axe just because the half orc character I made kind of lined up with it. But there is about 80 different weapon focuses you can go down. And then if you look on the left side there, it says weapon focus, you got 2 little green thumbs up. Those are kind of the recommended. It kind of helps newer players out, like, hey, would you like this? And then, or you can scroll down and it'll give you some negative, like these traits are pointless to take with this character.
Certainly helpful for people who may not be as experienced with like making D&D or Pathfinder characters, I imagine, because I mean, it looks like there's a ton in there.
There is. It's a lot. I could have done a video to show and like scroll down a little bit, but I didn't want to, like, if we discussed it any further, I didn't want to be limited. One thing on this slide here kind of reminds me, one thing I did not like, and it's very important for me in games, is the voice. When I look at that character, that picture right there, and I think of half orc, I don't think of a standard human voice like you or I talking, or Morgan or Natalie. But the voices are limited. So the voices I can select for that half orc female right there sounds just like you or I. And like with dwarves, like I expect a dwarf to have like that, that token, Scottish accent, rough and stuff. But nope, sounds like a normal dude.
Interesting.
That's racist.
Yeah, right. And to the right there, that's where you get to choose your alignment, and it goes chaotic neutral, lawful good, so on and so forth, what we're all familiar with. And it does play a big role throughout the game and in dialogue and how people respond to you. And it actually, within the first 15 minutes of the game, you start really feeling the effects of your actions throughout the game and your alignment.
Is that stuff kind of all built out of your alignment, or are the options still presented to you like
Yeah, are you
to
locked
change?
in?
The options are there to change. You're not locked into it, so you'll have like it doesn't really give you the answers throughout the story, because like if you selected 30 hours ago that you are chaotic neutral, you forget that and you just start answering how you feel throughout the dialogue, it will adjust your alignment. And NPCs like your companions and other like quest givers and stuff like that, they will respond accordingly to however you've been gauging up or down. This picture right here is pretty much the overall right before you complete your character, and it is just like the character sheet that we're all familiar with from D&D. It's right here. It gives you all the information you need between what skills you have selected, your abilities, and where you've placed your points at. You can see on that one my skills. I went +8 on athletics, +4 on the lore, +6 mobility, and +4 in perception, which I selected those just based off of what was recommended on Barbarian, and from my playthrough, the things that I know that I would have wanted on the original playthrough I had.
Agile lore master. It sounds kind of like an interesting archetype.
Yeah.
Usually you think lore heavy people are deep in their books and not as athletic.
So, like, lore nature and lore religion plays a very key part in when you're exploring the map, exploring the world, on what they actually understand in their surroundings. And it's when I've built my companions. Yeah, you can go ahead. When I've built my companions, I've made sure I had one that was heavy on lore nature and the one that was heavy on, lore world, and then somebody that can handle the magic use and all that. So here's a little example of the gameplay. So you can kind of see some of the old school RPG elements right here. This was a 20+ minute fight that I went through. It was somewhat of a boss fight, but I had to go into this fort and take out the cult leader. There's my cult plug from all the other videos. But I had to take out the cult leader in this, and this didn't go so well the first time. There's a cult leader right there in the video, the guy with the antlers on. But it didn't go so well the first time I did it. But the second round, 4-4, I stuck around quite a bit, and I kind of cut that part of the video out because it takes a long time for me to just keep inching forward. But stealth is very important in this game. And then your relationships when you go into the fort. There was an individual that I had to I had to communicate with him in a certain way, and based on my responses and my alignment, whether or not he was going to help me. And he's actually standing. Are you able to pause the video?
Unfortunately, not easily.
No, okay, no. So anyway, you see that owlbear looking thing, and he's standing there with a shield outside the fence. I wish he was kind of helping me out during these fights, but he does do some work a little bit later. But this fight kind of shows there's a lot of stuff going on. I had about 30 NPCs against me throughout this whole endeavor, and I didn't think I was going to make it through. The game is naturally difficult. It's not easy. It doesn't give you the answers. Actually, a lot of people have complained about how difficult this game is. Frankly, I've enjoyed it. It challenged me, and yeah, there was some reloading of certain areas, but even though like some of these fights, you reload, and I refuse to drop down difficulty on it, but you'll eventually get it. With that though, Mav, with your experience DMing, you've seen us go in areas that we probably shouldn't have yet, and it didn't play out in our favor. Or you probably DM'd with some people that you're just like, you know what, you made a bad move, and I need to let you feel it. Well, this game does the same thing. I've gone in a zone and into a cave, and I'm like, oh, this is just one little individual. Nope. I get destroyed. My entire party gets killed from one NPC because I was not meant to go there yet.
Does it kind of give you a backup? Like, does it try to kill you if you're in a spot where you shouldn't be, or does it give you options like they knock you out and take you prisoner, kind of like you would be able to do with a regular D&D kind of style?
You're done. It's like it is unforgiving.
Gotcha.
There are so I'm glad you say like take prisoner. There was one fight that it kept presenting that I really didn't want to make this choice yet, but what it was is a different cult, we'll say. So this one has two cults. I'm one up in everyone, but this cult kept appearing on my travels through the map, and unfortunately I didn't show a picture of the map and how that operates, but it kept showing up, and they wanted a slave. Their slave died, and they wanted a new slave. And I'm like, I'm not giving up any of my companions. Hell no. So
especially not to be a slave.
Right, I'm not doing this. And like one of my companions would try to step up, and they're like, hey, you know what? I'll take one for the team. No, hell no, we're not doing this. So I fight them, and I fought them about 8 times, and they've killed me 8 times. And I was like, man, damn it. This is the game telling me that I got to give somebody up for a slave. So I, gave it up for a slave. And I don't mean to spoiler alert, but what that did is open up another quest for me to rescue my companion. And I'm not going to tell anyone how to do that or what the outcome is of that, but it does open up.
So it doesn't
those abilities.
It doesn't necessarily give you the option to say no, but then the story still directed you the way that you were hoping to go.
Yeah, it did. The story, it made up for it in the long run. I was really upset that I could not beat that cult. I probably could had I been in that area at a higher level. I do not know if it scales to force you in that direction, but at the time, my level, the companions that I did have and their abilities, I just couldn't do it. Now, like I said, I fought them 8 times, and based on my responses and who died, there's about 8 mobs there. If one of them died, that would change the outcome of whether somebody poured it out or whether they ran or whatnot. But regardless, I still had to give somebody up.
Interesting.
Yeah. But like I said, it opened up a lot more options in the long run. So even though I did not want to, as an individual selecting those options, it provided a lot more story and depth that I did go that route.
So now we have another video too. Do you want to flip to that one?
Yeah. Okay. You had them separate. Yeah. Go ahead. Flip to the next one.
This didn't work.
Is this the battling of the?
Any fun to be had?
Yeah. This is the battle here. So this is the same map. It's just a little bit forward. There was a pause that I can catch my breath. That's where you can see on the last video what I was going to do some character adjustments and trying to heal up. So spells are limited, just like you would expect of D&D.
Last wishes.
So I had to think about what potions I was going to use. Did I have enough? At this point, I really didn't. So you can see on my characters, I started off there. There's no rest. You can't rest in certain areas. And then you can see one of my characters, like I said, it's very unforgiving. This point right here, I didn't think I was going to make that. I was nervous the entire time. It was a very factor. I lost my cleric. He's down. My tank is getting low. She's taking hits. My bard is sitting there playing some music and doing the things she's doing. My main character is actually the ranger. That's the one I selected and actually played the most with. But you can just see, it's not going well.
Stay behind me.
Drop down.
Let us strike
And
as
the
one.
boss is just up there with you, just hopping everybody. And you can pause it as much as often as you'd like to change your strategy up, but in reality, there's still got to be time for those actions to take place.
Die for me.
There is a long swing timer. It's like a 3-second ability timer.
A
And
solid
it's
plan.
not like a lot, but so much can happen.
This is where
It's
I step in.
it looks like it's kind of turn-based, like a game of Pathfinder or D&D would be, right?
Yeah, it definitely is. It plays real time, but everybody's
The
swing
weak
timer,
suffer. I endure.
ability timer is all lined up based on the rules that you would for initiating and stuff.
Bring it.
Certain abilities happen faster, and then of course your mobility and
Tear them apart.
strength and dexterity kind of increase or decrease that ability as well. My tank, she's got full plate on and got a tower shield. She's a lot slower than my barbarian and my ranger. Half. Very, very fun game. Very challenging. Like I said, this is the first game that I've been this interested in this RPG. Like I've played the original this one I just like keep coming back. But another thing that I didn't display and I'm myself about is this. Like I said, I paid 50 plus hours and I just scratched the surface. Once you get past this fight right here, it opens up like a turn-based 4X game. 4X portion of this game. To where you are given a kingdom and you have to run it. And there's lands that you have to control. There's certain buildings you have to make. I have not really gone that far into it because I was like, man, this is a whole different world. Very interested to see what it's
May I suggest
It's
another
not
way?
just
This won't
turn-based
kill me.
combat RPG. You do have a huge strategy portion of it to maintain as well.
Multiple
Yeah, we
games
go
all in
ahead.
one. So the final
So with
verdict.
this one, yeah, final verdict. I give it an 8 out of 10. Just a few minor little issues, but in reality, I thoroughly enjoy the game. It's deep. I didn't even delve as deep as I could with it. The map is huge. The kingdom management piece, I'm really curious to see how far I can go with that. But stuff like the graphics, it's a Unity-based game, so it looks great. It runs great. The music is not really something that's like, oh, this is beautiful music. I just want to listen to it while I fall asleep. No, it's nothing like that. But it's there. It's not bad. Character creation is amazing. I think whenever we started doing this, I was like, you know what? I'm picking this game because it's let me build an Aasimar Paladin, just like my Azrael Sky in D&D. And I do have that gameplay going as well. But as Z and I were talking in chat, that Aasimar Paladin is a little OP, and I wanted something with a little bit less steamrolling effect going on. But yeah, good game. I haven't even scratched the surface. I mentioned earlier that I played this many hours, and I feel like I just finished the intro. Honestly,
Wow.
some people say that they finish it in 40 hours. I think they're missing out on a lot if they're doing it in that little.
Those are the people that just randomize a character and just go, right? I mean, they
Yeah,
can't
and
be
you
they can't be
have-
reading chats and stuff like that.
Yeah, exactly. And you have the option to do your companions that way too. I'm choosing to, manipulate every little aspect of my companions, and kind of basing them off of what my character can provide or what other companions can provide. And I think don't quote me, but I think there's like 12 different companions, 8 to 12 different companions you can choose from and they're all very different from each other. And some of them take advantage of like the special classes within Pathfinder, like the Arcane Trickster is a wizard with 3 levels of rogue. And so this wizard's ranged attacks can act like a sneak attack from a rogue whenever you cast those abilities.
And it's pretty cool that the game takes away a lot of that tedium that you experience while still giving you all of like the customizable setup that you would have in Pathfinder or D&D.
Yes. Yep. Very so. And I really wish I can rename my little bard to Born Buongiorno, but it's not letting me do that yet. So that one got a half a point there because of that.
Lost a half a point for
Damn
that.
right it does.
So
But
we're
outstanding game. I recommend everybody try it out if you're into those types of games, or if you don't have a group to play D&D with and live action, then use this for a
there you go. I was definitely intrigued by the elements that you were portraying there. It seems like quite the interesting setup. So, all right, guys, last game that the Game Club is talking about this year, The Witcher 3. It's certainly not a new game. It's not a super old game. It came out way back in 2015. Still looks pretty good though. CD Projekt Red did a great job, and the thing that I really like about it is that they've added a bunch of content on with the expansions that you can now get pretty much for free. When you buy the game for $40 on usually their standard price, or sometimes they'll drop on sale to like 20, you're basically getting an enormous amount of content for your money. So enormous that there's probably no surprise here that I don't think Vancy Pants, did you finish The Witcher?
Oh God, no! I am not even close to being done.
Yeah, I know that I did not come anywhere close to finishing The Witcher. There is a ton of content out there. It is of course available on all of your major gaming consoles. You got the PS4, the Xbox One, and on Windows. And it does fall solidly into that action RPG genre. I'm just gonna play the intro cinematic here, put some audio on that because it is quite the cinematic. So we'll give it a little 3 minutes here. Whew. So one thing I will say, when you watch this opening cinematic, the game immediately is putting you in this idea that you're going to be playing this epic fantasy, right? You get everything that you want to see there. You've got these battles, you've got magic, you've got a ton of just ridiculous gore. Um, seeing that bird like fly through that guy's head.
Yeah,
That's
it's definitely something for all kids to enjoy. All ages will love this. So if you're looking for something for your kids, this is great.
I'm a huge Yennefer fan, by the way. She's badass.
Yennefer and Triss. So I'll talk a little bit more about why that's such a good thing that there's these cool fantasy elements, and also what I was a little disappointed in with that when we get a little bit more into my score. But just some more background around the game, and at least for how I experienced it. Vancy Pants and I both, this was our first ever Witcher game. Probably should have started at the first one, but jumping into the third one, we figured most up-to-date graphics, best systems. There is a ton of story here. I mean, when I play RPG games, it's usually linear, Final Fantasy style with some side questing and things like that. This one, I just felt like there was just so much going on, and there were so many things happening in the world that seemed to be pretty dynamic, that it was just crazy the amount of content that was there from a story perspective. That being said, jumping into the Witcher franchise on number 3 with zero background of the story was a little difficult because, unlike Deus Ex that you were mentioning earlier, Goose, there's no catch-up video here that's built into the game. You start off right away kind of in the midst of this giant war that's previously happened, and it seems like the war is more or less over. There may be some roving bands of brigands left, but I kind of come into this with very little knowledge, and all of a sudden people are telling me like, "Oh, you're the guy that killed the king," and I'm like, "Whoa, hold on a second, I did what? Like, is that true? Are they lying?" Like, there's a lot of information that, as a first-time player into the series, you're kind of expected to know a little bit about the franchise before you just jump in. They do counteract this. They do have a handy little in-game guide for all the people you meet, who they are, why they're important. But there's a lot of times where I would get into a cutscene and someone would walk up to me and start talking to me like we've been friends for years, and I'm like, who the hell is this guy? I think I've spent the last like 8 in-game hours looking for Dandelion, and I have no idea who this flower is.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with you on that. However, they make it super easy for you to just jump in and start playing without any background knowledge.
Did y'all have to? Did you spend a lot of time online trying to figure out certain things, or just trying to play?
I spent about 0 hours doing that. I'm just kind of winging it.
Yes, going.
And I will agree that it is pretty friendly on the actual playthrough. But if you want to exactly know what's going on, there were a couple cutscenes where I had to make decisions. Like, I was being interviewed by a guy, and he's like, "Did you or did you not kill the king? Were you at this battle?" And I was like, "Shit, I don't know. Am I lying? Am I telling the truth? I'm trying to do the right thing, but I have no previous knowledge around these incidents." So I think that actually fits in really well to The Witcher, because I think in the second game or the first game he loses his memory completely. So I'll just say that I'm role playing Geralt there by not having any memory. So the story in this game, obviously super rich, super in depth. There's so much there. The missions and the things that you do along the way are compelling enough to keep you going on the quest lines, which I thought was good. Even just the small side quests that are like, they call them hunts. So you're a witcher, you're in charge of roaming the lands, hunting down monsters and beasts, killing them, and then of course collecting the coin associated with killing them. Kind of a bounty hunter. Even these small little hunts that are basically just go to this place and kill this monster, they all seem to have some sort of background, right? So it's like you hear about the farmer who tried to go and kill the monster first, and how his son like found his mangled corpse because this guy was just out there with his hoe and shovel trying to kill this giant winged beast or something. And then at the end, it's almost always like, well, here's the money that I owe you, but what about this poor little orphan child who now has no parents? Like, you always have the choice of, well, all right, fine, I guess I'll give you back the money that I just earned. Which I did almost exclusively. Every single time I came to it, unless the person was a real prick, I would just say, all right, fine, this one's for free. Next one's going to cost you.
I see that we play those very differently, because I am very greedy in this game.
When I played, I made enough money not to really worry about it. So I just did everything for free too.
It's the principle of it.
Goody two shoes.
So obviously story, super rich, The other part of the game, though, it is heavily steeped in story, but combat is also very important. So we have another video here of combat. Here you see our main protagonist, Geralt. What a hunk. He's a super cool dude. This is somebody who is kind of mixing up their forms, so you can see he's pushing people around with the magic you've got. He's lighting people on fire. He's hacking them to bits.
Very shiny.
Yeah, there's one of the signature kid-friendly exterminations that will happen. I felt like I was playing a Mortal Kombat game sometime here watching this stuff. There are potions, which you see he just popped a Thunderbolt potion, which is a super important part of the gameplay, because depending on the difficulty at which you play, not having access to like healing stuff inside the game is basically just controlled by your potions. You really have to watch out, because this guy I think is probably playing on normal just from seeing the quickness with which he's dispatching these foes. But on one of the more difficult settings, I think I played on the hard setting, not the impossible one. You get hit like 3 times, and that can be it. So especially when you get surrounded, it can get crazy. So the difficulty is there, which I actually really liked, especially because you can adjust it mid-game. But the use of kind of consumables and things within is kind of important to weave into your combat, because unfortunately, like I was saying earlier, the combat is good, but it does get a little spammy sometimes. So it looks really cool when you do these executions and things, but a lot of the times when you're up against a couple foes like this, or especially for me, I would just kind of like pop a shield up and then just take them down one at a time, just kind of doing light, quick attacks. So I feel like there was room for improvement on the combat system. Some of the moves that guy was pulling off, I have absolutely no idea what was going on there. He was doing some cool whirlwind spin attack. Did you have access to any of those, Ms. Vancy Pants?
Not yet, at least.
Sounds like y'all need to get good.
I guess, yeah, we just got to play more. One of the main points of this game is to progress through the story in search of I don't want to jump the gun here. In search of your lost kind of adopted daughter of sorts. Her name is Ciri, and you do get to play as her a little bit in kind of flashbacks or tellings of her story. This was frustrating for me because you get these cool moves, like she has a dash that she can do. Instead of rolling around, she just like lightning jumps. And it goes back to what I was beginning to say at the very beginning, when we see this awesome magic coming out from Yennefer, one of the main mages of the story. I was so bummed that I couldn't do those sorts of crazy things. Like Geralt can't do this little lightning jump thing. He's got some signs, so he's got this push, he's got a shield, he can light things on fire. But it seemed like there was a lot missing from like the mechanics of having all of these things available to you. I know that they're trying to play a little bit into the story, and obviously you don't want to be playing as Superman if that's not really the intention of the game. But it seemed like a missed opportunity to have a lot of cool mechanics in the game like that didn't really get used as much as they could have. So, let me jump ahead. Let's talk score. Witcher 3, solid game. Good purchase. I think it'll probably be on sale for the winter sale. It usually goes on sale for most of Steam stuff. You don't like the botchling?
Yes.
This is a botchling. Which is a horrifying in-game creature that you have to meet. Geralt just shrugs it off. He's like, yeah, that's normal. That's just the botchling. You have to work with these all the time. But I saw this thing. I was like, oh, God. This is a whole fun side quest. It's basically a reincarnation.
It's like this fetus that was never born, and it came back to haunt the parents.
That is gross.
Yeah, spot on. It was very gross. Although I will say, and you may not have chosen the same thing, but I chose to save this small botchling thing instead of killing it. I helped the bear and kind of banish it.
Yeah, I mean, this happens pretty early on in the game, so I also chose to be helpful. But that was before I realized that I could be quite a bad boy in this game. So who knows, next playthrough, what will happen.
Geralt is a true bad boy, too. So things that I loved about the game. Voice acting, very, very good. Character animations during cutscenes and voice acting, because there's so much conversation, pretty good. One of the main characters that you'll run into is the Baron. I loved the voice actor that did the stuff for the Baron. I love the way that they moved his characters, and just kind of that experience was really good coming from a background where, like, the last RPG I played, the characters are like turning in rigid motions and their mouths kind of just move up and down, but things aren't exactly synced. So it was fun to see the attention to detail that went into that. Things I think could have improved a little bit. The combat system, at least from where I'm at in the game, probably like 40 to 50 hours in, I feel like I haven't quite experienced what I was expecting from the combat system. But it's still fun. It's still pretty fluid and is not bad to play. Sound is good. I've been playing with the music on, and it's kind of pleasant. However, I do dock half a point from that because there are very specific trigger points along the way where you will like step onto a tile, and all of a sudden the audio just like comes in, and you'll step off of it and it'll be gone. And it's a little unfortunate that the blending wasn't a little bit better. And the combat music that comes up whenever you get into combat, even if it's just like this little wild dog that runs up, is so epic. But it's always like there, like it just shows up, and you're riding along on your trusty steed Roach, and you hear this sound come in. You're like, oh god, what is it? Is it a wyvern? Do I have to deal with like a giant moving hillside? Oh no, it's just a tiny little dog.
Yeah, and actually Mav has gotten really good at singing it.
Although for the life of me now, I have absolutely no idea what it sounds like. I'm sure if I heard it, I'd be all in. I'd just go start wailing. But
yeah, we'll practice it later.
That sounds good. So yeah, good game. Definitely recommend picking it up. How about you, Miss Vance Pants? You gave it a little bit of a higher score.
Yeah, I actually gave it 9 roaches out of 10 roaches, just because I love the diversity of these side quests. I feel like a lot of times in these types of games, you kind of get bored of the side quest because it's a situation of, oh, we promise we won't betray you. You get into the quest and they're like, oh, just kidding, we lied, and you have to fight your way out. But I've done quests where I'm talking to pigs and then fighting werewolves, so it's awesome to have that kind of diversity. I did take away some points, well, I guess just one, because I don't love the crafting element in it. I feel like it could definitely be improved in that aspect.
See, that's funny because I actually wanted to mention some of the crafting. I love crafting in games. I think it's probably because I like cooking so much. So I love gathering all these things and putting them together. I just felt like I didn't get to do enough of it. Like I would, every couple levels, look and see like, oh, I could have crafted this 2 levels ago. I'll go and bang it out, and then I just kind of wait for the next thing. So it also is very unique in that I didn't realize at first when I started playing, when you craft things like consumables, potions, bombs, stuff like that, you have them basically for life. You have a limited supply as you play, but then when you rest or you take a short break, your supply comes back. So you don't ever have to make a bomb that you've already made. That being said, there are so many things to be made that if you really wanted to get deep into the crafting system, you certainly could. And that's another place where I think that if they did make more titles, they could probably continue to refine their crafting thing. And also, I was reminded by chat, thank you very much, the oil wheel. When you are running about in this game and you're fighting all sorts of different monsters, you have to know what sort of oil you should apply to your blade, what sort of poison you should put on there to kind of fight at the peak efficiency. And I foolishly chose to spec into oils and poisons and potions as even more enhanced things, like a pretty big part of the way that I was playing the game. Unfortunately, that means that every single time I go up to combat, I have to like pause the game, remove myself from the story, go to my inventory, find the right oil, put it on. But at the same time, I couldn't bring myself to install the mod that actually does that for you automatically. So I feel like if there's one complaint I have about this game in the combat sense, is that they really, really needed to change their quick menus just a little bit to add the oil wheel. So Project Red, if you guys are out there, work on that oil wheel.
So I guess when you guys were mentioning the oil wheel, I'm terrible at applying that. I thought you were referring to the constant shininess of the characters. Huge distraction in the game. I can't look past their shiny skin.
Holy cow. And also,
8.5.
Pretty much every single woman in this world is like smoking hot. There are very few unattractive women. Even like the older women, they've got kind of that like they look pretty good. And the game does not shy away from this. Unfortunately, it does seem a little bit like the game is kind of pandering to the male fantasy that we get a little bit with Game of Thrones and stuff like that. Because like when you meet the alchemist the first time in this random town, you know, she's not frumpy, but the game like starts on her butt when you open the door, and it like pans up to her head very slowly. It's like, why was that necessary? Come on, game.
How many
And yet we
characters-
never really get to see Geralt naked. All these women naked, and yet no Geralt.
Yeah, there's no Game of Thrones.
That's true.
There's plenty of red cosplays available.
Oh yeah, and speaking of mods earlier, Nate, I don't know if you have seen the mod that makes Geralt stronger, but I never realized the game was missing extra muscles until I saw that mod, so we might have to look into that.
It's just the beefcake Geralt.
Yeah, it's Geralt on steroids.
Well, guys, this was kind of an interesting little change from what we normally did. I definitely liked getting to try out some games that otherwise would have sat in my Steam library forever. And I thank you guys all for putting forth the effort and the time to help me kind of get this off the ground and enjoy these awesome games, because I do think that we've got some awesome gems here. I will certainly be checking out Hollow Knight, might probably pick up Deus Ex. There's a lot of good games here to consider. So thank you guys all for being part of the game club. It's been a great 2018. We did what did we do? Let's recap our 2018 games other than the ones we just talked about. We did 8-Bit Pixels, which was horrible. We did not recommend that one. We did Wizard of Legend. Wizard of Legend was
8-Bit
great.
Horde.
I love that. Yeah, 8-Bit Hordes was bad. Wizard of Legend
Yep.
was good. We had at least one or two more in there though, didn't we? What was our first one that we played?
Psychonauts.
Psychonauts, yeah.
Psychonauts. Yep, that was a good one.
Yeah, really enjoyed that. I saw that the Psychonauts 2 team did send out they sent out a tweet. It's coming up. And then for 2019, we do plan to continue playing our games. We love having you guys tune in to hear about them. We do not have our vote just yet. Bastion, yep, can't forget Bastion back in August. that was the one that we're like, yeah, we'll review that at the end of August. And then come like end of October, we're like, oh man, we never did that, did we? We better get on that. So we'll try and be a little more regular in the 2019 years. But we're gonna have a little delayed start just to enjoy the holidays, and most importantly, wait for those awesome sales to come across. Gotta make more games into the Steam library that we'll never play.
Right.
250 games is not enough.
Well, thank you guys again for playing through the month on the Games Club. Thank you, viewers, for tuning in, for watching on YouTube. Awesome to have you guys here. Thank you, Vancy Pants, my beautiful wife, for playing The Witcher with me and
Thanks for
reviewing it.
having me.
And we're gonna go have some pizza. So, you guys have a wonderful night. Thank you for tuning in. We'll see you next time.
Bye.
Au revoir.
Bye.